I'm Lori Meggs.
And I'm Bill Hubshaw. On today's episode of Focus on Marshall, we're going to learn more about the new external tank design by visiting the place where it's built, the Michoud Assembly Facility.
But first, we'll show you how this room could become home to Johnson Space Center flight controllers in a time of need. I'm here with Jay Onken, and he is the manager for the Mission Operations Laboratory here at the Marshall Center. And Jay, your team has just accomplished a very big task of becoming a backup control center for the International Space Station. Tell us what that means.
Basically what that means, Lori, is that if the control center in Houston is down for some reason, most likely a hurricane evacuation, then the controllers there can evacuate Houston to a remote location and log into our systems here and continue to command the space station and talk to the crew and conduct all the operations on the space station that they do. If it's a longer outage, we actually have accommodations here for them to actually come to the control center here and perform their function of controlling the systems on the space station from here.
It's part of our ongoing role. Right. Supporting the space station, right?
As you know, we've been 24/7 doing the science operations on the space station in conjunction with Houston, in partnership with Houston. They control the systems, we control all the science, and talk to the crew through the science that they're doing. It's an international deal. We got the Russians doing their, controlling their segment. The Japanese and the Europeans are now on board. So there's 5 control centers all working in tandem to accomplish this mission. And this is just an extension of our strong partnership that we have with Houston as an operations center.
And I know the Johnson Space Center flight controllers are very thankful for this because they were having to go to Russia if they had to evacuate, right?
Yeah, it's a much shorter trip, and it's easy for them to get here within hours, and and they have more capability than they had when they were going to Russia. So basically, when they went to Russia, they could keep the systems going. We really couldn't do any more science. We couldn't do any of the other nominal activities. So when they come here, we can actually continue to achieve the mission as planned, basically.
All right. Well, thanks, Jay. And I think Bill is with someone who's at what would be a backup control center.
We're here now with Joey Pirani, and he is the project manager for the ISS Backup Control Center. And, Joey, you've got a great-looking facility here. If you would, tell us what makes this facility so unique and why it's so important to the people at JSC.
Sure. Here at the Huntsville Operations Support Center, we've been doing payload operations for many years, and we've been able to do it securely and remotely for the many scientists and payload developers that use this facility. They can be in their university, they can be at their place of business, they can be in their home and still receive experiment data from the station and command their experiments on the station. So that lends itself well to JSC in a remote backup control center capability. When JSC needed that facility because of many hurricanes and events that happen in Houston that forces an evacuation of Houston, the space station still must be controlled. So when they can go to Round Rock, Texas, or come here to Huntsville, and we have built over many years a mini control center here for space station operations.
Well, this isn't the kind of thing you can put together overnight. I mean, assembling a team and putting together a facility like this, so you've been at it for a while, right? Yes,
we've been at it for 2 years. We had a great team here in Huntsville and a great team at the Mission Operations Directorate in Johnson Space Center to build an environment where the flight directors of the space station can come here and still have the exact same environment they have at Houston.
Well, it looks like you got to finish just in the nick of time because recently it was put to the test, and Lori has more on that.
Well, Bill, you're absolutely right. I'm here with Angela Marsh, and she's the Ground Systems Operations Branch Chief. And, Angela, you guys didn't waste any time. You were certified, and then shortly thereafter, you had folks from Johnson Space Center right here at your door.
That's right, Lori. Over the Labor Day weekend with Hurricane Gustav, the JSC Flight Control Team was dispatched to Marshall in the event of an activation.
Now, fortunately, you didn't have to activate, so it was kind of a dry run. But then you guys were really put to the test with Hurricane Ike, right?
We were put to the test with Hurricane Ike. The JSC Center was closed. There was no power. The flight control team was split, and part sent to Round Rock, Texas, and the other part came here to Marshall.
So what did that involve for you folks here?
For our folks, having our systems up and running, consoles ready for the flight control teams, and the networks configured.
It had to be just like it was back home in Mission Control for them, right? And that was a busy week for them, too, right?
It was a busy week for them. We had one instance of the flight control team at Round Rock having to come to Marshall sooner than we expected because of the power outages and fuzzy networks. There was a 30P progress docking that had slipped 5 days, and that was managed by the flight control team from Marshall.
And so, from what I understand, you got an excellent mark for that. You guys did a really good job for them here.
The systems operated nominally. The flight control team was very happy with how everything ran, and we were very pleased with that, mostly because these guys were under a lot of stress, leaving their homes and their families, coming to an unfamiliar place to work, and making them feel at home and comfortable was our first priority.
And you guys did an excellent job. Thanks, Angela.
Thanks, Lori.
I'm here in New Orleans, Louisiana at the Michoud Assembly Facility, and joining me now is John Chapman, the Marshall Center's External Tank Project Manager. And John, there is a huge project going on behind us, and I have to say it is very impressive to see these external tanks up close and personal like this. Tell me about this new tank you've designed.
Well, the specific changes that I would show you back on this tank, Lori, are changes that we've made for the purpose of continuous improvement, changes that make the tank perform better than it's ever performed before. And those changes that we've made on these particular tanks are in two specific areas, both involving the attachment of things to the outside of the tank. Those things would be ice frost ramps, which are sprayed on areas of foam that insulate places that we attach things, and then the other areas would be the feed lines that carry the cold propellants from the tank over to the orbiter, and we insulate those attach points with special foam. So those are the changes we made.
And why is dealing with the ice buildup so much a factor of what you guys are trying to prevent?
Well, ice is a natural occurrence when you're dealing with liquids that are the temperatures that these liquids are, 420 degrees below zero, for example. And things that are that cold cause condensation to form, and then that condensation at cold temperatures goes from water to ice. And you don't want ice to come loose, because ice that comes loose at the wrong time can come loose and hit other things and cause damage. So our approach is don't let ice form. So we do that by insulating with this foam to keep the ice from forming.
And I know this is not an idea that just came up overnight, right? There's been a lot of work done by Marshall Center engineers to get this tank newly designed.
Well, the changes that we've made are the kind of the culmination, if you will, of work that's extended over the past 4 or 5 years to understand the basic physics of how the ice forms, how the foam performs, and how you can alter the application of the foam to ensure that the ice does not form. So all of these changes that I just mentioned take that physics understanding into account.
And I understand you've flown a tank and a pretty good success rate. You guys are pretty proud of the accomplishment, right?
Yeah, the tank that flew on Space Shuttle Flight STS-124, which was ET-128, was the first tank that had these latest series of changes on it, and it performed perfectly. We lost no foam at all in the areas that we made these continuous improvement changes, and the whole tank team is just really excited about that success.
And the folks here at Michoud worked pretty hard to make that happen too, right?
Countless hours, nights, weekends, understanding what we needed to do, and then coming up with the processes to actually make those changes to the tank and then flying it.
And keep it going and going and going, right? You said this goes 17,500 miles an hour at some point, I guess, when it gets its fastest point. That is impressive to me, just to be standing beside something that can go that fast. I know it's impressive to you, too.
Well, it's interesting when you see the tank move around to the factory here. It seems to move at a snail's pace, and but we all have to keep in mind that it's in its final usage, it's going to be going 17,000 plus miles an hour. So we have to keep that in mind all the time. It's an amazing machine. It really is.
Thank you for showing us around.
Enjoyed it.
Bill, those tanks are so impressive up close, and the team at Michoud does a great job.
Well, that's true. And as far as this facility is concerned, while it's a great capability to have, we kind of hope that it doesn't get used that often.
Maybe it won't. We'll see where we turn up next as we focus on Marshall.